Let's get into some of the other stuff. Actually, well, I mean, let's just get right into it though, because it has been quiet. You know, pretty much for like a while there, we were referencing at least one of their articles per show, pretty consistently. But did you see the news that Jaxon.gg is shut down?
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Unfortunate, man. They were doing good work. Really,
I thought my joke was the line though. I just said like it was obviously just all an elaborate sort of like fucking PR campaign by Astralis to bring device back. Because the joke is like, if people don't know, like that was that along with the config one, like they're just the PR arm of Astralis. Although in theory the Astralis config story was sort of bad for Astralis, but yeah. Now that device is back, magically it just shut down, didn't it? Like it's not really what's going on, guys, but it looks like that. It looks like that.
The joke was that Astralis, that config didn't actually get in a fight with the promoter. He got in a fight with the leak, and that's what was going on. They used config to take the leak out, and then without the leak, well then Jaxon, that's it, because 90% of their articles were about Astralis. Without the leak, that's it. They fold. So I know it's dumb, but it is it's config. Yeah, no, it's unfortunate to see Jaxon closing. And I'll give you a quick read on the tweet, because I mean, that you have the experience in the space, and you can tell me if this is good or bad. But let's see. Christian Slot, who was the editor-in-chief over there, says that they've closed even though we showed explosive growth, 1.3 million visits after 4 months, exceeding KPIs with 100%. Following website launch in July, the owners decided to quit. No money, rough times. And so he says he's insanely proud. And of course, I mean, I think he should be, because they crushed it. But what do you think about that traffic? I mean, do you have any kind of insight as to whether or not that, like, where that measures up in terms of traffic, in terms of journalism in the industry?
I mean, those numbers sound very good. The problem is it's all based on like put it this way, on this channel right now, if you go to the YouTube channel, if you're watching the VOD, there will already be the VOD up, because it came out today, of Snake and Banter. There's actually a topic we addressed on that. So I'll go over some of the things I talked about on this, but I won't like cannibalize those points too much. I'll leave them on their own. Basically, I would say this, Semmler. The problem with most of the media sites like that is they tend, like, here's the real problem. To get the money in the first place, they usually have to oversell what numbers they can get to get the money to even start. And then you would basically just hope you can get those numbers. So even though those are amazing numbers, as far as I can tell, especially for how long the site's been around, not very long, the problem is if you really aggressively sold that you were going to make like millions and millions of hits, then maybe to a viewer that's not enough. And also, quite frankly, if you look at the way he phrased it, it just sounds like they wanted to pull their money out. Remember, it's a bit like 2 years ago with ye old COVID and online shit. Like, it wasn't like esports itself was directly connected, but you had all those other companies that were part of the ones sponsoring, investing, propping up, reinvesting, and those are all the companies that basically said, sorry, not this year, like the budget's gone, like we don't have live viewership, so my company that's a basketball team can't sponsor your team this year, we're gonna have to slash the budget. So I would suggest something like that. It's also probably the world that, like, the economic world right now means anyway these companies are all looking to crush the budgets, get rid of the margins, and so if you're like sponsoring some or investing into some fucking website for like news in Counter-Strike doesn't really seem like it'd be top of your list. That'd probably be the first thing you'd cut, which has always been the story with esports. We're the first thing that gets eliminated on the budget of real companies, unfortunately. And then the other thing I would say is this. I actually did think in general they did a good job. It's just that as much as those stories, the config and the device ones, did get massive numbers, it's also, I think, really hard to get like huge sensational stories with any regularity in esports. Like, beyond just raw drama, like, dude, even the actual player transfers don't work now, because remember, in the modern day, HLTV is just going to rewrite your post 5 seconds later and put it on their website, and all the people who go to HLTV are just going to click that and read it. They're not going to click the hyperlink and go to your. So, like, you know, like, you've only really got the drama, and that's why, actually, as a very quick aside, I've already commented on this on the Snake and Banter, so I want to get your take on this. I actually thought the really sad thing about this is, like, as usual, Reddit is like a perfect barometer for what is correct, because they're always wrong. So, as usual, in the latest episode of Reddit is Always Wrong, you know, Semmler, how I've pointed out how they don't care about, like, some anonymous leaker who gets shit wrong all the time, but they will torture Richard Lewis and DK over, like, every minor word they've ever said, and then imply these guys are actual human dog shit, even though their work is impeccable and has no flaws, almost never violated professional ethics. So what Reddit shows is they always actually try and basically, it's like that thing, a prophet will never be, like, welcome in his own land. They will always destroy the legit person. So I saw Reddit thinks the this is great news because you know what? Jaxon was just a tabloid TMZ website. I've been informed, Semmler. I don't know in what context because Richard's pointed this out many times on the Old by the Numbers. As far as I can tell, every story Jaxon ever reported on that I had a lead on, they were accurate. What they reported, they were correct. I've even pointed this out in the past. I have been a source for Jaxon when I've had my own people that have had stuff and been able to give them a lead or a tip, like, yo, check out this person. Maybe he can corroborate what you're saying. Like, as far as I can tell, they were doing a very good job, actually. Some are true. The subject matter might have been in the wheelhouse of a tabloid, but like, let's be real. A massive professional player getting in a fight, which potentially, in this case, could have ended his life. That's actually in the public interest. That's absolutely something that any website or newspaper would report. So I thought, I wanted to get your take on that because, dude, it's one thing that a site dies. Like, why do fans have to, like, celebrate it? Like, you think it's good that this website doesn't exist? Why? We wouldn't know all this information about config. We wouldn't know about device. We'd just been sat there waiting for liars from NIP, like to wait a year to tell us what's happening. Like, I don't get how people can cheer that on, mate. Like, if you cheer that on, you must just be a nihilist. Like, there's nothing good in the world to you.
Or you're actively, or for whatever reason, as you were talking there, for whatever reason, I was thinking that if subconsciously or consciously they are aware that they themselves are not doing good. How to put this? Like that they have to tear down whatever it is that they see as good or doing good, and so they themselves, whether they know it or not, it's like they repel it like a magnet.
There is a bit of that. Put it this way, that's the real reason, in my opinion, they go so hard after me and Richard and claim that we're people without integrity and liars, because they know we're not, and that we actually advertise that we're people of integrity and that we're not. Yeah, as you say, it emphasizes that if they have any flaw, they have to show that we're human as well and that we're flawed. And if we are, they think it's like a tie at that point, you know.
You have to like lean into it as well. That was one of the things. It's funny that it's just in terms of like what your track record is, but I think that's really what it is. It's like it's also a pedestal thing where it's like once you're at the top, if you get too high to the top, and if you're there too long, even if you are the best at what you're doing, it doesn't matter. Then it becomes about how can they tear you down.
Oh, by the way, there's even a great line I always say. I know people are going to think the source is a meme, but this is a great line, I thought. Travis Gafford from League of Legends, when I used to work with him like almost 10 years ago, he had a great line for it. He said it's called the rubber band effect. He said what happens is when you get popular, it's like they're pulling the rubber band out and out and out, and they're going, oh, you're brilliant, you're the best, you should replace the current guy that's there. Oh, he's number one, he's give him all the awards. But then as you say it, eventually they hit the point where it's like, let's let go of this rubber band. And it's like they come for you. They come for everyone in the end, mate, everyone. And that reason I know this is true.
They're coming after Scrawny and Launders now.
Oh, of course, mate. That's what these idiots don't get. When the people themselves see this process, put them to the top, they naively think, oh, brilliant, they're just like me. It's not actually a thing. And what you don't know is this. I'll explain very briefly to people. You remember this, Semmler. When I was the number one person in CSGO as an analyst, all the shithead fans did on Reddit is go, Yanko's better because Yanko knows the game. He was a pro. Then when Yanko became a coach, Yanko knows nothing about the game. He's a fucking idiot. Yeah, he's garbage. All he did is, like, he didn't know anything about it. Look at the way MIBR play. So now, when Yanko was number one, they said Sponge is the king because Sponge was a more popular former player. Now that Sponge, see what I mean? It's just a fucking shit like treadmill of dog shit where they just tear someone down every single case. Like, and the joke is, mate, I've even seen, no joke, people criticize Maniac, fucking Lurpis. Like, guys, at this point, your whole thing of like pros no more cannot be a real principle because Maniac played in majors. Lurpis was in Lurpis has fucking medaled at like a World Cyber Games or something. You know what I mean? Like, this outrageous shit. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's just semi-finals. These people are being at the absolute top level. So yeah, you're right. It's just a process. And the problem is, get ready, put a pin in it, guys, because this is going to age like fucking fine wine. In like 4 years, all of Reddit will be like, Scrawny and Lawrence are fucking boring. You can tell they don't care about the game anymore. They've all just mailed it in. I think new Billy Bob X and fucking Slash, the new guys on the block, they're the new guys. And because I'm first and I support them, I think they're the best in the whole world. It'll be the same turnover again, sadly.
It's already happening with Launders and Scrawny. So then you're going to see, like, within a few months, even, I think they'll start to going, oh, but Launders, this, that, and other, Scrawny, this, that, and other, and they'll just start picking them apart. And then before you know it, it'll be they can do no right, they can only do wrong, and then it'll be on to the next thing. So it really is that. I mean, it's almost like you can't help itself. And the thing is, like, I don't think that they are even themselves aware of what they're doing. So again, it's just like, they don't know, they don't know what they're doing. And so, at the end of the day, once you've been through it, you take it much less seriously.
Yes.
At first it sucks. Obviously, when you're getting
because as you say it,
like,
you take it personally initially, right? But then eventually you realize they're going to do this to everyone. Like the joke is,
and once you realize that part, it's like, okay.
The one who gave it away to me was Anders, because if people don't know, Anders and Moses probably the most amiable people to ever work in esports. Like, there's nobody who doesn't like these guys. So as soon as Reddit turned on these guys, especially Anders, and they were like, he's shit, but it's like, mate, it's the same fucking guy. Like, the joke of Anders is he never lost his passion. It's the same guy. Like, he even casts the same way.
Oh,
and you guys hate this guy.
Well.
Come on.
This was because we started experimenting with it, because Anders and I would talk about it, be like, what are we doing differently? And so for a while there, we ran the experiment where, because, it's like we tried everything under the sun, like super analysis, super in-depth, or no analysis, mega light. Like, we were trying all sorts of different things. And then at one point we were just like, fuck it, we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over. Like, we're just going to go back to what worked, and we're just going to do the same thing over and over again. And we could do literally the same thing. One broadcast, people would love it. The next broadcast, people would hate it. And we would not change anything. It would just be arbitrary. So at that point, then you really know, it's like, okay, what the fuck? Like, how do you, I guess you just have to accept that this is how it's going to be. No matter what you do, you're either going to get praise or shit on, and it could be whichever way these people decide to wake up in the morning. So that was an interesting experience for sure. It's definitely something like casters. It's tough when it comes to these sorts of scenarios. And this is casting. I mean, obviously journalism. You guys are cranking stories out, and so you're going to have metrics to follow. But because casters, it's really hard to tell like what impact you're having on the stream itself, unless you get a thread on Reddit or something like that. It's really hard to judge. It can get a bit mentally taxing, because like if you're a pro, you're like, okay, I fucked up here, I fucked up there, like I've got stats to prove it, and whatever. Like, there's metrics you can follow in other parts of it. Whereas with casters, it really is all subjective. So if the community is hating on you, then that's pretty much all you got to go off of, is the community is hating on you. And it can get pretty brutal sometimes for the mental space. So that is one of those things. But to bring it back to Jaxon, I just hope these guys land on their feet. I hope that that there's a site that's going to pick them up, because I feel like there was some good, they were doing a good job, cranking out content. We were always referencing them, and I think they did a good job staying on top of stories. So I hope the guys working there are going to be able to find another spot to go to, and maybe start one of their own or something like that. I don't know. It'll be cool to see it and cool to follow. Like what happens with them next.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.